With colder weather looming, I'm going to cover different types of protective gear that you could use for the dog that you are housing, but you don't have to use, and other ways that you can protect the dog from the cold. Labradors, Goldens, and Poodles were all bred to be water retrievers and generally cold water retrievers. We're not talking about like them being in the Bahamas and retrieving in warm tropical waters. All three of those breeds were bred in northern regions with cold waters, and so their coats have been designed through selective breeding to protect them from the cold. Labradors and Goldens have a double coat, so they have a protective top coat, and then they've got their undercoat. That's why it's important to not shave them unless absolutely necessary, like for a medical procedure. The top coat repels dirt and water, and if that gets removed by shaving, then the undercoat can get sodden, and that's how the dog can end up getting cold when normally they wouldn't. So you may notice when you bring either of those breeds in from outside after the rain, or if it's been snowing, their top coat will get wet, but they're not wet down to the skin, and they shake it out and then it dries relatively quickly. Poodles have a single layer coat, but it is a pretty dense coat, so unless they are shaved down to the skin, they will still be warm. So all three of those breeds have been bred to withstand relatively cold conditions. Not to the same level of a Husky or Malamute, but they are not going to get as cold as, say, a Rhodesian Ridgeback or a Vizsla, dogs that have much thinner coats. With Papillons, they do have a thinner coat than the other three breeds that PAWS has, so it's going to depend more on the individual dog that you have in your household, and that does hold true for the Labradors, Goldens, and Poodles as well. So if you have a dog that's been shaved, or you have a young dog that doesn't seem to withstand the cold very well, you can get them a sweater to wear when you take them outside, but you don't have to have that ready for them as just like a staple part of their equipment list. They've got coats that should be enough to protect them. If you notice that they seem to get cold really quickly, then yes, you could get them a sweater if you wanted, but that's not something that they should need normally. With their feet, you want to be mindful more so of the salt on the road and sidewalks than pretty much anything else. So when you come in from outside, wipe down their feet with a towel, trim the fur on their feet so that it's flush with their paw pads. So if we've got fur sticking out like that, that should be trimmed down so that there's no fur sticking out. Do not trim between their toes. So if I have scissors, I should not be sticking scissors in between the toes. That's dangerous. You might end up cutting something you don't mean to, but if you just take scissors and cut the fur so that it's flush with the paw pad, that will help prevent snow buildup between the dog's toes, and it will help prevent the ice accumulating from between their toes as well. There's also a product called Musher's Secret. It's a paw wax that you can rub on the dog's feet before you take them out, and that helps keep their feet sealed. It helps repel the ice and salt and the moisture, and then that way their feet won't get cold, or their feet won't get that unpleasant stuff stuck into in between their toes. You should still, even if you use Musher's Secret, you should still check their feet when you bring them inside. They shouldn't need to wear boots. Dogs have calloused paw pads. The breeds that we have at PAWS are more than equipped to deal with cold and ice. Again, it is a bit of an individual thing, so if you have a dog that seems to get really cold feet, you could train them to wear boots if you wanted to, but Generally, that's not something that they're going to need. What you'll notice if the dog is getting cold feet, they might chew at their feet a lot, and that's either their feet are cold or they've got snow packed between their toes and they're trying to get it out. Or they'll start picking a foot up and then they'll pick the other foot up and they just generally look a little pathetic. That's when their feet are getting cold, and so you should bring them inside. Generally speaking, we don't want dogs doing more than like a mile and a half of exercise anyway, because we are not building endurance athletes. Most of our clients can't handle a dog that needs to be walked, a couple miles every day. So we don't want the dog to be built up to needing that. So if you are sticking to only like a mile or mile and a half with the dog, that shouldn't be an issue of the dog getting too cold unless we get into really frigid temperatures, which if that ends up happening, then we will of course be in more communication of, hey, this is not safe, the weather we have coming up is too cold, keep the dogs indoors for majority of the time and only let them out for X amount of minutes. If you are going up to the UP or you're going up to a northern part of a state that is really cold, then you'll need to use your best judgment of how long is it safe to have the dog outside and doing things for. And we do have a helpful chart that we'll share again of these are the temperatures that are safe, these are the temperatures that you should start to limit activity, and these are the temperatures that you should really not have them out in at all, except absolutely necessary. So generally speaking, they shouldn't need to wear sweaters, they shouldn't need to wear boots. If you have a cute Christmas sweater that you want the dog to wear, you can of course do that, but they shouldn't need those things in order to stay warm and comfortable in the cold weather. They are built to withstand the weather that we generally experience in the areas that we've got those PAWS dogs. And of course, if you have questions, you can reach out to your puppy club leader, you can reach out to me or Julie, a more experienced raiser, and we'll always be happy to help point you in the right direction.